Brought to you by...
Throughout the years, thousands have taken up arms and joined forces in order to serve our country. Some enlisted their services in the hopes of providing a better life for their loved ones, to fulfill some form of self-appointed duty to those they hold most dear. However, others were not given such a choice. Some were forced to take up arms and were pushed out into the battlefield in service of a cause in which they did not believe. But no matter what the reason, they found themselves in the trenches. Those who came out carried with them one universal truth: that war is hell. It doesn't matter what side of the line you fell on. Each who have ever stepped headlong into the fray and survived to regale their tales does so with a very black and white outlook. There is you, and there is the enemy. However, somewhere along the way, I believe that they find that things are never so cut and dry. Sure, you may not fight for the same side, but when it comes right down to it, even your greatest enemy can ultimately be your most relatable comrade. Hello friends, and welcome back to ETF. Today we have our first here on the channel, as we take a look at a short film that warrants further exploration than we would normally provide. This one comes from writer-director Matt Belts, under his newly formed banner Gunfighter Pictures, and is co-produced by our very own Overlook. In the midst of the turmoil of World War II, blanketed by the frigid winter of Nazi-occupied France, a young soldier marches a fellow brother in arms to his execution, under accusations of being a German spy. However, along the way, the lines between duty and morality begin to blur, calling into question the very nature of what is right and what is wrong. We open hard with stark black and white titles on a harsh, vibrant field of red, accompanied by the bombastic presence of a score that sets the tone for the world as it stood on the brink of collapse. This is where our isolated story exists. This title in itself stands as a stark contrast to the dull and washed-out palette of the film itself. We then slam into a bird's-eye view of the cold desolation of the landscape, our two characters isolated, lost in the expanse of snow, as they carry out the namesake of the narrative. As we are introduced to our protagonist, his vacant, almost fearful gaze pierces through the lens itself, grounding us firmly in his shoes, as he carries out his orders, marching another soldier, whom he barely knows, towards certain execution. There is thought behind his actions, doubt and hesitation as his eyes move toward his rifle, as if it were itself looking back. From these early moments, we are mostly kept at a distance from our characters, left as onlookers, an objective third party to the small conflict between them. We are invited into our protagonist's headspace, but our prisoner is kept at arm's length, a complete fucking mystery to us as an uninformed spectator. The cinematography throughout this film gorgeously captures the emptiness of war that surrounds our characters. The composition of each frame feels chosen purposely to convey the emotional burden of this journey on both of our opposing parties, making clear that though the battlefield stands long behind them, the conflict still rages inside, as they march toward an end that neither side is exactly eager to reach. The sound design and score throughout the film are perfectly woven hand in hand, mixing the soft stillness of winter with a crisp dialogue recording that envelops you into each line of dialogue. The score itself is almost atmospheric at times, building gradually with the rising tension between our characters, and falling back into the blissful serenity of the icy expanse. The The performances on display here are exquisite, pitting a young man overwhelmed by his own internal conflicting emotions regarding his task at hand, against another who we are left to figure out for ourselves, who for all intents and purposes seems to genuinely be falsely accused of war crimes that he had no hand in. Our protagonist, played by George Lavoie, whose soft features and sometimes vacant gaze perfectly present a young, naive, fairly inexperienced man who somewhat foolishly signed up to be part of a war that he himself had no stake in. He's an idyllic youth who enlisted to defend God and pathetic love of country, never knowing what horrors he would be faced with on the fields of battle. It's the emotion that bleeds through his performance that sells the turmoil of this narrative, while at the same time allowing us to place ourselves within his shoes, within this situation. Our prisoner is a more experienced individual, played to perfection by Michael Ziccola. It doesn't take long before we gain a sense that he has seen more of his share of violence than he ever wanted to be a part of. He portrays the role with a hint of world weariness and an elevated sense of intellect. However, there is more to this performance that makes him so intriguing to watch. Perhaps it's my foreknowledge of his accused crimes, but each line delivered carries a weight of uncertainty as well, an almost sinister quality that lingers in the atmosphere of their conversations. To me, some of his words felt almost purposely skewed, as if maybe he were trying to hide a German accent beneath a veneer of authentic American drawl. The climax is what drives this one home. Throughout this scenario, we are presented a man, a prisoner, whose allegiances may lie on the other side of the conflict, and in the end, we are left dangling with the question, was he truly the spy that he was accused of being, or was he just a fellow soldier, falsely accused, sentenced to die, who decided in the end to go out on his own terms? The locations for this film perfectly capture the atmosphere that it aims for. Sprawling, vacant farmland, dense, withered forests, and wide-open skies paint a portrait of a territory ravaged by war, which is surprising given that it was shot locally in southern Rhode Island. However, if you didn't know any better, you would happily accept this territory as Nazi-occupied France. Visually and tonally, this was a film that felt authentically period-appropriate. The costume design alone sells the cold rigidity of World War II, while the setting takes it the rest of the way, making incredible use of locations that I personally have not seen utilized before. I was afforded an incredible opportunity through Overlook to get an early look at this film, and my only response was bravo. Rarely am I so captivated by a short film that I am dissecting each of its frames throughout my first viewing. Director Matt Belts clearly had a vision for a situation and did everything he could to layer in depth where it was needed. He delivers us strong and well-crafted characters and a scenario that is truly captivating from start to finish. I feel that the most haunting part of this story for me was the idea of uncertainty that lingered throughout the relationship between the characters. We can't help but wonder what could have come of them if certain decisions hadn't been made, if perhaps they had taken a different route toward their destination. Could this moment of finality been avoided? Would the truth of what our prisoner's intentions were have come to light? Or would he have been sentenced to die without just cause? Though the subject matter of this story is as serious in tone as can be, it finds moments of levity throughout, in small comical exchanges and situations between the two men in opposing sides of this situation. The beauty in this film, for me, lies in the building camaraderie of these two men that rises throughout their exchanges, sharing tales of their hardships, their views on the war, and even the comfort of a last cigarette, all while they march toward a conclusion that neither of them wants to reach. It's in these moments that we truly question the accusations against our prisoner. We are made to feel his story at our core, and wonder if he is truly speaking from the heart, or if it is all a cleverly crafted ruse. Yet, even in the moments where their bond begins to develop and strengthen, we are reminded that they are not friends, and that ultimately this situation will have only one outcome. Well, friends, that's gonna be all for now. If you enjoyed this video, or you have suggestions for more films that you would like to see covered in the future, let us know down in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you aren't already, and click that little bell icon to be notified on all of our future content. If you want to help ETF keep making content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. You don't have to give a lot, every little bit helps us stave off the darkness, and gets you some fun little rewards at the same time. Until next time, stay safe, keep embracing film, and thanks for watching.